I never imagined that one day I'd be standing at my own son's funeral, watching the man I married point a finger at me, blaming me for the unthinkable. Max was gone, my little boy with the brightest smile and the softest laugh. And yet, somehow, I was being treated as if I had taken him from this world myself. The sky was grey, heavy clouds hanging low, mirroring the storm in my chest. People murmured around me, offering hollow condolences. But I couldn't hear them. I couldn't even see them. All I could see was Daniel, my husband, standing there with his hands folded, eyes cold and accusatory. Maybe if she had been paying more attention, he said, his voice carrying over the small crowd of family and friends. Maybe if she had done her job as a mother properly, Max would still be alive. A gasp ran through the guests. My knees almost buckled, but I clutched the edge of the coffin, my hands trembling. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear into the ground and never come back, but I couldn't. I had to stay for Max. I had to be strong for him, even now. I looked down at the tiny wooden casket. The soft, perfect face of my son stared back at me from a photograph attached to the lid. The same cheeks I had kissed 1,000 times. The same laugh that could light up an entire room. And now, gone. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. I had to listen to this. I had to endure this. Daniel's words were poison, and he knew it. He knew how much they would hurt me, and maybe that was why he said them. Maybe he thought I deserved to feel this pain. But there was a part of me, small, fragile, stubborn, that refused to crumble completely. I took a deep breath, feeling the rough wooden coffin beneath my hands, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on me, and I whispered to Max, "I love you, my baby. Mommy will fix this. I promise." No one could see it, but I made a silent vow that day, not just for Max, but for the truth. As the service continued, I noticed my daughter Lily standing a little behind me. Her small hand clutched mine tightly, her eyes wide, as if she already knew things I didn't. She had always been observant, more than her 8 years should allow. And now she seemed almost knowing. The service ended. People left, murmuring and comforting, while Daniel lingered, his anger barely concealed. He looked at me one last time and said, almost casually, "I hope this teaches you something about responsibility, Sophia. Maybe next time, you'll do better." And then he was gone, leaving me with my grief, my guilt, and a strange, growing suspicion that things weren't as simple as he wanted everyone to believe. I sank onto the nearest bench, Lily at my side, and I finally let a shuddering breath escape. "Mommy, he's lying, isn't he?" she whispered. I looked into her eyes, searching for the certainty I didn't have, but something about the way she said it, the tone, the quiet confidence, it sparked a tiny ember of hope in my heart. Maybe we could uncover the truth together. And in that moment, I realized Max's death was only the beginning. The real battle was just beginning. The house was silent when we returned from the funeral. Silence doesn't just fill a room. It presses down on you, makes every shadow feel heavier, every creak louder. Max's toys were still scattered across the living room, reminders of a life that had been so abruptly stolen. I walked past them, without touching a thing. I couldn't. Every toy, every little sock, every crayon seemed to whisper his name, and the pain of it was unbearable. I found Lily sitting on the couch, her small frame curled up like she was trying to hold herself together. "Mommy," she said quietly, her voice trembling. Do you think Daddy was right?" The words cut me like a knife. I wanted to pull her into my arms and tell her that everything was going to be okay, but I didn't have that comfort to give her. Not yet. My heart was still raw, my mind still spinning with questions. "No, sweetheart," I whispered, holding her hand. "Daddy's wrong. Max's death. It wasn't your fault, and it wasn't mine either. We'll figure out what really happened." She looked up at me, Her little brows furrowed, and then her eyes widened. Mommy, I saw him. I saw Daddy. The night Max got sick. He wasn't careful. I froze. My heart raced. Every nerve screaming at me. What do you mean, Lily? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know all of it, she admitted. But I hid in Max's room, and I saw Daddy put something in his cup. The one he drank right before. You know. She trailed off, not needing to finish the sentence. My blood ran cold. I had suspected Daniel of being careless, of being distant, but I never imagined he could do something that would hurt Max. I swallowed, forcing myself to stay calm. I knew I had to think. Panic wouldn't help us. I looked at Lily and whispered, "Did you see everything? Can you remember it clearly?" She nodded. "I think maybe. I recorded it. On my tablet. I was scared, Mommy, but I thought if anything happened, someone would know." My heart pounded. A recording? Could she really have captured something? I gently took the tablet from her hands, careful not to disturb anything. The video was grainy, shot from behind a door, but the events were unmistakable. Daniel was there, Max's little cup in his hand. I couldn't make out every detail yet, but my stomach dropped as I realized there was enough to confirm what Lily had seen. Tears blurred my vision. My son, my sweet, innocent Max, taken from us, and the person I trusted most might have been responsible, at least indirectly. Lily squeezed my hand tightly. "Mommy, I know it's scary, but you'll make it right. You have to." Her words were stronger than I expected. I had always thought I was the protector, the shield for my children. But in that moment, it felt like Lily was protecting me too. She was my little anchor in a storm that threatened to sweep me away. I spent the night going over every detail I could remember from Max's last days. The medicines he was taking, the drinks he liked, Daniel's movements, his unusual attention to things that didn't normally matter. I began to see patterns, small but significant, that didn't add up. By morning, I knew one thing with terrifying certainty. I couldn't confront Daniel, not yet. I needed proof, concrete evidence, something undeniable, and I had it. Lily had it. I held her close and whispered, "We're going to get the truth, Lily. I promise." For Max, her small nod was fierce, determined. For the first time since the funeral, I felt a spark of hope. A plan was forming in my mind, tentative but growing. Daniel may have thought he could control the narrative, blame me, hide what really happened. But he underestimated us. He underestimated a mother's love and a daughter's courage. Max's death had left a void in our lives, but it also lit a fire, and I was ready to burn through every lie, every deception, to uncover the truth and see justice done. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Max's little face, his laughter, the way he would reach for my hand when he needed comfort, and I saw Daniel's cold expression at the funeral, his words slicing into me like a blade. I knew I had to act. I needed to understand exactly what had happened in those final hours of Max's life. Lily had given me a start, a glimpse into the truth, but I needed more. I couldn't rely on memories or guesses. I needed proof. I went to Max's room first. The door creaked softly under my hand as I pushed it open. The room smelled faintly of toys and baby powder. His little bed was untouched, the blankets still tucked neatly. But I didn't see Max here anymore. I only saw evidence, the small traces of his life, like fingerprints of a soul that had been cruelly taken from us. Then I noticed it. The small hidden camera, tucked behind a bookshelf, partially obscured by stuffed animals. I remembered Lily had mentioned it in passing. She had been observant, more than I ever realized. I retrieved it carefully, brushing dust off the lens. When I plugged it into my laptop, the footage began to play. My heart pounded as I watched the video frame by frame. Daniel was in the room, moving slowly, deliberately. He picked up Max's cup, the one he had given him just hours before the boy became ill. His hands hesitated, almost as if he was considering something. Then he added a small amount of a white powder into the liquid. I gasped, the sound almost making Lily jump from the doorway. "Mommy, what is it?" she whispered, clutching my hand. I don't know yet," I said, my voice tight with fear and disbelief. "But we're going to find out." I rewound the footage. I needed to see every detail. And there it was again. The same movement, the same powder. Daniel's face was focused, almost cold. I couldn't deny what I was seeing. He had done something to Max. I sat down on the floor, clutching the laptop, trying to make sense of it. Was it intentional? Was it an accident? My mind raced, the questions colliding with memories of Daniel's behavior over the past months, his increasing distance, the arguments that never seemed to involve me, but always ended with subtle accusations or blame. Lily sat beside me, her small hand on my arm. "Mommy, he's not going to get away with this, right?" I swallowed hard. "No, baby, he's not." For the first time since Max had died, I felt a spark of control. The truth was ours now. Daniel had tried to hide it, to manipulate everyone, to make me the villain. But he had underestimated the bond between a mother and her children, and he had underestimated Lily's. Over the next few days, I started collecting everything I could. Max's medical records, his drinks, the medications he was supposed to take. I spoke to the nurse who had visited him the week before. I quietly recorded conversations with Daniel when he tried to redirect blame. Every small piece fit together, painting a horrifying picture that Daniel had tried to conceal. And then came the moment that changed everything. I found another video on the hidden camera, a clip Daniel hadn't noticed. It showed him arguing quietly with Max before bedtime, his hand reaching for something on the shelf. Max protested, reaching up, but Daniel dismissed him. It was subtle, but it was there. I realized then that Daniel had been planning to make it look like Max's illness was my fault. He had manipulated everything, the drinks, the timing, even the way he positioned himself so no one would suspect him. I looked at Lily, who had been silently watching my reactions. "Mommy, he's a liar," she said simply. "Yes, sweetheart," I whispered, hugging her tightly. "And we're going to make sure everyone sees the truth." That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't just grief keeping me awake. It was determination. The fire in my chest was no longer just sorrow. It was purpose. Daniel had blamed me at Max's funeral, thinking he could destroy me and silence the truth. But he was wrong. So very, very wrong. The real battle had begun, and I knew one thing. We would not stop until the truth was out. The days after discovering the footage were the hardest of my life, but also the most empowering. I had evidence now, but I couldn't rush. I had to be strategic. One misstep, and Daniel could twist everything, make me look like a delusional grieving mother. And I wouldn't let that happen. Not for Max, and not for Lily. I spent the mornings quietly reviewing the videos, documenting everything in detail. Each movement, each subtle action, each suspicious moment, it all went into a notebook I kept hidden under my bed. I cross-referenced the footage with Max's medical records, noting the timeline, the drinks he had, the medications prescribed. Every small piece of evidence strengthened the story I knew I had to tell. Lily was my constant companion during this. She was quieter than usual, but her eyes were sharp, observing everything around us. I could see she wanted to help, wanted to be a part of righting this wrong. One evening, as I reviewed the footage again, Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, what if he finds out I showed you the videos?" she whispered. I shook my head gently. "He won't. We're careful. We only use what we need to, and only when the time is right." "You did something very brave, Lily." "Very brave." She nodded. her small face serious, almost adult-like. I marveled at her courage. In that moment, I realized Lily wasn't just my daughter. She was my partner in uncovering the truth. And together, we could face whatever came next. I knew confrontation alone wasn't enough. This had to be undeniable. I needed witnesses, doctors, neighbors, anyone who could verify the timeline, the medications, the drinks. I quietly reached out to the pediatrician who had treated Max, asking about the records and any observations that might help. I also spoke with our housekeeper, who mentioned seeing Daniel acting unusually the night Max fell ill. Every small detail built the case. Every whispered observation, every small recorded moment was a step toward exposing the truth. But the hardest part wasn't the investigation. It was keeping calm around Daniel. He continued to act normally, pretending nothing had changed. He still tried to manipulate the narrative, still tried to look like the grieving father, while I quietly built the evidence that would unravel him. I watched him closely, noting every lie, every inconsistency, every flash of irritation when he thought no one was looking. The man I once loved, the man I had trusted with my heart and our children, was slowly revealing his true nature. And then, the idea struck me. What if the person who could expose him wasn't me? What if it was Lily, my little girl, brave beyond her years, who had already captured the truth on video? Maybe the world needed to hear it from her. I crouched down next to her one evening and whispered, "Lily, you're very brave. What you saw, it's important. And one day, people will need to know the truth. Do you think you're ready to help Mommy do that?" She nodded firmly, her small fist clenched. "I'm ready, Mommy. I want Max to be safe. I want everyone to know what Daddy did." I hugged her tightly, feeling a mixture of pride and sorrow. Pride for her courage, sorrow for the innocence stolen from both of them. And yet, in that moment, I felt hope, the kind of hope that doesn't erase grief, but transforms it into something strong, unyielding, and unstoppable. I began to plan our next steps carefully. We couldn't act recklessly, but we also couldn't wait too long. Each day, Daniel grew more comfortable, more arrogant, thinking he had hidden the truth forever. Little did he know, we were already steps ahead. I spread out the evidence, videos, notes, medical records. I created a timeline, connecting every suspicious action to the consequences Max faced. I rehearsed my questions, my explanations, and most importantly, I rehearsed staying calm. Anger could ruin everything. Precision, patience, and proof. Those were our weapons. And at the center of it all, Lily's quiet bravery shone through. She reminded me, silently, that the truth doesn't need anyone to embellish it. It only needs someone courageous enough to show it. The day of revelation was not yet here, but I could feel it approaching, like the tightening of a spring, ready to release everything. Daniel had no idea what was coming, and when it did, the truth would hit like lightning. The house felt tense, charged, like the air itself was holding its breath. Daniel still acted as if nothing had changed. He smiled at me over dinner, made small talk, all while pretending to be the grieving father. But I could see the little slips, the subtle twitch in his jaw, the way his hands shook when he thought no one was watching, the way he avoided my gaze. I had been documenting everything meticulously, every video frame, every suspicious movement, every interaction that might be relevant. I had talked to the pediatrician, gathered records, and even discreetly asked neighbors and the housekeeper about Daniel's behavior leading up to Max's death. Every piece fit together like a puzzle, and every piece told the same story. Daniel had tried to hide something. Lily watched me quietly as I worked. She was no longer just my daughter. She was my partner, my silent ally. Her little hands helped me organize evidence. Her sharp eyes noticed details I had missed. She was the one who had started this investigation, and together, We were going to finish it. That evening, I made a decision. I couldn't act alone anymore. I needed someone neutral, someone who could corroborate everything. I called Dr. Reynolds, Max's pediatrician, and explained what had happened, carefully leaving out any accusatory language, but emphasizing that I had concerns that needed verifying. He agreed to meet discreetly. As we waited for him, I rehearsed the questions, the statements, the evidence. I went over everything in my mind, imagining Daniel's reactions, imagining the disbelief and denial, and I planned for every possibilities. I couldn't let emotion cloud the facts. Not this time. Then came the moment that shook me. Daniel was talking on the phone when Lily approached him quietly, her small voice calm and firm. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" He looked down at her, startled. "What is it, Lily?" She didn't hesitate. "Do you remember what happened to Max the night he got sick?" His eyes flickered for a moment, almost imperceptibly, but enough for me to see. There was a tension there, a crack in his armor. He smiled awkwardly. "Lily, let's not talk about that." "Okay." But she persisted. "Mommy says we need to know the truth. Did you give Max something that made him sick?" I held my breath. I had trained her well. She didn't accuse him outright. She didn't cry or panic. She just asked, and that was enough. Daniel's face went pale, and he stammered. I don't know what you're talking about." At that moment, I realized something important. Daniel's control was fragile. His confidence, his manipulations, they depended on everyone believing his version of events. If even one person questioned him, if even one piece of evidence surfaced, his carefully constructed world could crumble. Dr. Reynolds arrived shortly after, and I presented the timeline, the videos, the records, and the witness statements. I watched Daniel's reaction closely. He tried to maintain composure, but I could see it. The tension in his shoulders, the tightness in his face, the quick glances toward the door as if he was looking for a way out. We didn't accuse him yet, not outright, but we laid the groundwork. Every piece of evidence was undeniable, every observation corroborated, and through it all, Lily stood quietly beside me, her small presence a silent declaration. The truth was coming, and there was no stopping it. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered, "Mommy, he's going to be surprised tomorrow, right?" "Yes, baby," I said, brushing her hair from her face. "And when he is, he won't know what hit him." For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm. Not peace, not closure, but the calm of preparation. The battle was coming. The confrontation was near, and I was ready. We had the evidence, we had the witnesses, and we had each other. Daniel had no idea that the walls he had built around himself were crumbling piece by piece, and that soon the world would see him for who he really was. The morning sunlight filtered softly through Max's room, but there was no warmth in the house. Tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Daniel moved through the rooms with his usual calculated calm, but I could see it now. Every step, every glance, carried the weight of suspicion. He was tense, uneasy, and I knew we were getting closer to breaking through. I had planned the day carefully. Dr. Reynolds would be there to review the evidence, and I had Lily at my side, ready to speak her truth. I knew she was nervous, but I had never seen her more determined. The bravery that had shone through the night of the funeral was now focused, steady, like a small but unwavering flame. We gathered in the living room, the videos playing on the laptop, the timeline spread across the coffee table. Daniel sat across from us, pretending calm, but his hands fidgeted, his eyes darting back and forth. He didn't notice Lily's gaze, resting on him, steady and unflinching. "Mommy says something happened the night Max got sick," Lily said, her small voice strong, but not trembling. "I was in his room. I saw everything." Daniel's face went pale, a flush of anger quickly masked by a forced smile. Lily, you don't know what you're talking about. But Lily didn't waver. She pulled the tablet from my hands and showed the video. Grainy, but unmistakable. Daniel's movements, the cup, the powder. Every action captured in silent testimony. I watched as Dr. Reynolds leaned forward, his eyes narrowing at the footage. "This is significant," he said quietly. "I need to review the medical records alongside this, but if what we're seeing here is accurate, it's a serious matter." Daniel's composure cracked. His voice rose, sharp and defensive. "This is ridiculous. You're twisting everything. I didn't do anything to Max." Lily held her ground. "I recorded it. I saw it with my own eyes, Daddy. Mommy told me we have to tell the truth. And this is the truth." For the first time, the mask Daniel wore so carefully slipped. Anger, guilt, and panic flashed across his face in rapid succession. He tried to interrupt, to shout over Lily, but his words faltered. He couldn't undo what had been recorded. He couldn't erase the witness standing beside me. His own daughter. I felt a wave of emotion I hadn't allowed myself to feel in weeks. Pride. Pride in Lily's courage, in her determination to stand for what was right. She wasn't just my daughter. She was a beacon of truth. The one who could finally shatter the illusions Daniel had built. Dr. Reynolds nodded at me, silently signaling that the evidence was undeniable. The timeline, the videos, the witness statements, they all aligned perfectly, and Daniel had no choice but to face it. "Daniel," I said, my voice steady but firm. "This isn't about blame or anger. This is about truth. Max deserved the truth, and so does everyone else." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, he was silent, caught in the web of his own actions. I could see him calculating, thinking, trying to find a way out, but there wasn't one. Lily stepped closer to me, small but resolute. "Mommy, it's over. Everyone can see now." And she was right. The storm had broken. The truth was no longer hidden, no longer in shadows. Daniel's lies, his attempts to manipulate and control, had been exposed by the one person he had underestimated most, his own daughter. I took Lily's hand in mine, squeezing it tightly. The fear, the pain, the grief, it was all still there, but now it was mixed with hope, with justice, with the knowledge that we had done the right thing. Max's memory would be honored, not tarnished by lies. Daniel finally looked at me, his expression a mix of anger and defeat. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself, and the courage of an 8-year-old had done what words alone never could. For the first time in weeks, I felt a measure of peace. Not the peace of forgetting, not the peace of healing fully, but the peace of knowing that the truth had won, and that Max's life, though tragically short, had not been erased by lies. That night, as Lily slept peacefully beside me, I whispered to her, "You were so brave today, sweetheart. Max would be proud of you, and so am I." Her small hand found mine in the dark, squeezing it gently. "We did it, Mommy," she said softly. "We made it right, and for the first time, I believed her." The days that followed Lily's revelation were intense. The moment the video surfaced, Daniel tried everything he could to twist the story, to gaslight, to convince people that he was innocent. But the evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and for once, no one could ignore it. Not Dr. Reynolds, not the neighbors, not anyone who had seen the truth with their own eyes. I remember the moment I walked into the house that morning. Daniel was pacing, his face tight with anger and fear. He looked at me, eyes wild, as if trying to intimidate me into silence. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Not for myself, not for Lily, and certainly not for Max. "You think you can control this, don't you?" I said quietly, my voice steady but cold. "You think your lies can stand forever, but the truth doesn't lie, and we have it all, every piece, every moment, every action you tried to hide." Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. He tried to speak, but the words faltered. His hand shook, betraying him, even as he tried to appear calm. I took a deep breath, my eyes locked on his. Do you remember the funeral? How you blamed me for Max's death? You thought everyone would believe your version. But Lily... I paused, glancing at my daughter who stood firmly beside me. Showed the truth. She saw what you did, she recorded it, and now the world sees it too. For the first time, I saw real fear in Daniel's eyes. He stumbled back, searching for some excuse, some escape, but there was none. The walls he had built around himself, his pride, his manipulation, his lies, crumbled before him. Then Dr. Reynolds entered, carrying the medical records and evidence we had compiled. We've reviewed everything, he said firmly. This is serious. Legally, these findings will require an investigation. There's no denying the chain of events, and the responsibility is clear. Daniel's face went pale, and I could see the reality finally settling in. There would be consequences. There would be accountability. I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that Max's memory would be honored, and justice would be served. Sadness that it had come at such a terrible cost. I looked down at Lily, and her small hand found mine, squeezing it gently. She had been the hero. She had stood up when the truth needed a voice. I approached Daniel, my voice quiet but resolute. You cannot erase what you did. You cannot hide behind anger, or manipulation, or fear. Max's life, though brief, mattered. And so does the truth. He tried one last time. A desperate, angry plea. You think this is over? You'll regret this. I shook my head. No, I'll never regret seeking the truth, and neither will Lily. Max deserved justice, and we're giving it to him. In that moment, I felt the weight of weeks of fear and grief lift slightly. The confrontation was over. Not with a scream, not with violence, but with undeniable proof, unwavering courage, and the justice that truth brings. Daniel slumped into the chair, silent, defeated, and for the first time, I saw him as he really was. A man who had underestimated the bond between a mother and her child. A man who had tried to control a story he couldn't own. Lily leaned against me, whispering softly, "We did it, Mommy. Max is safe now." And she was right. Max was safe. In memory, in truth. In the knowledge that his story, though tragic, would not be twisted or forgotten. We had fought and we had won. Not just for ourselves, but for him. I realized then that justice isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it comes quietly, through courage, through persistence, through the bravery of those who refuse to let lies stand. And sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places, like the small hand of an 8-year-old girl holding a tablet, determined to reveal the truth. The house was still quiet that night, but I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. A fragile sense of closure. The pain of loss would never leave completely, but the pain of injustice had been replaced with hope, and the knowledge that Max's life, though brief, had mattered. We had uncovered the truth. We had faced the lies, and in doing so, we had reclaimed our power. The days after the revelation were quieter than I expected, but in a good way. Daniel's presence still lingered like a shadow, but the fear, the tension, and the power he held over us were gone. For the first time since Max's death, I felt the space to breathe, to think, to heal. Lily and I spent the mornings together, slowly returning to routines that reminded us of life before the tragedy. But we did it on our own terms. Breakfasts were slower, filled with conversation instead of silence. I watched her play with her dolls, the way she smiled at the little victories she found in her tiny world. And in that smile, I saw resilience. I sat beside her one afternoon, holding her small hand in mine. "Lily," I whispered, "you know, what you did, it changed everything. You gave Max a voice when he couldn't speak. You gave me strength when I thought I had none. You're incredible, sweetheart," she smiled. a small confident grin. I just wanted people to know the truth, Mommy. Max deserved that. And so did we. Her words struck me deeply. Yes, Max deserved the truth. But so did we. The right to remember him without shame. Without lies twisting his memory. And because of Lily, and because of the courage we both found within ourselves, we finally could. The house slowly felt like ours again. We didn't erase the grief. We carried it with us, acknowledging it, honoring Max's memory in every corner. But the fear, the blame, the manipulation, that was gone. And in its place, we built something stronger, a foundation of truth, resilience, and love. I began to reflect on the lessons this tragedy had taught me. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel. But it also reveals strength we never knew we had. It shows us the power of courage, the importance of honesty, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. And I realized something profound. Revenge isn't always about anger or retribution. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your power, your dignity, and your voice. Sometimes it's about ensuring that the people you love are protected and that the truth is seen, heard, and honored. I held Lily close that night, tucking her into bed. Max would be so proud of you, I whispered, tears in my eyes, but a smile on my lips. We did everything we could for him, and we'll keep doing it every day. She snuggled into me, her small hand resting on my cheek. I love you, Mommy, she said softly. And I love Max too. I love you both, I whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead as I sat by the window that night, looking at the stars. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't thought possible. The journey had been painful, terrifying, and heartbreaking, but it had also been transformative. I had faced grief, deception, and injustice, and come out stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Max's life had been brief, but it had taught me a lesson I would never forget. Courage, truth, and love are more powerful than any lie or betrayal. And as long as Lily and I stood together, nothing could ever take that away. The darkness of loss remained, but now it was softened by the light of justice. The warmth of family, and the knowledge that we had honored Max in the only way that truly mattered. By protecting his memory, uncovering the truth, and never giving up on the love that binds us together. And in that quiet, powerful moment, I finally knew we were going to be okay. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment revenge, so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? What do you want to hear from us in next video? If you have any incident in your life, please let us know. We would love to share your story.